Good morning, Jeff. We're starting Yomi Bais 5b, and it's in. Let's see, from the wide lines down. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines. It's in the middle of the line. We ask now, what about, again, we're continuing the Machlekes Abaya and Rava. If the Torah tells you that something is forbidden, but you nevertheless go ahead and do it, is it effective what you did? Or do we say, no, the Torah said you can't do it, so therefore you accomplished nothing? It wasn't effective either. Rava holds that you accomplished nothing. Abaya says, no, you accomplished something. That's why it's a sin. That's why the Torah says not to do it. So what about, if someone gives to the Kohen Truma, and he didn't give his Bikurim yet. He didn't bring his Bikurim. So we said before that this was a violation. He has to give it in order. The Rachmana, the merciful one, says, which means it's Hashem says in the Torah, you shall not delay your Truma. That's the Bikurim is Malayascha. Demacha is your Truma. You should not delay it. That means you have to give it in order. Utanan, and it was also taught, Hamakdim, if someone takes precedence, if he goes first. Afal Pishu, Balaisa say, if someone does his Truma before Bikurim, even though it's a negative prohibition, but Masha Asa Asui, what he did is accomplished. In other words, the Truma is considered Truma. Like Abaya, that it's effective. So, in the Hagoyis, in the Shita Mikubetzes, it now has some extra words here. It says, the words that get added in is, Tiyufta de Rava, this is a question on Rava, it's Yud Gimel. In my Gemara, it's the second line of the middle wide lines. Mm-hmm. And then the Gemara answers that Amalach Rava responds, which is in our Gemara. There's just a few extra words in here that's not in the Gemara. Shani Hassam, the Hadar Ahadrikra, that the pasuk brings it back. The Ksiv Mikol Ma'aser Seichem Terimo says, from all your maasers you should give truma. Lahavi, this is coming to include Afagav, the Asarta Ma'aser Rishon Mekami the Tishkol Truma Mikol Makom Tafresh Truma. Okay, we're holding now by the word Ula Abaya, but what we just learned here was that we have a special pasuk that says Mikol Ma'aser Seichem Terimo, that you should take from all your maasers, you should take truma. So second, you take the truma, and then you take the maaser. You don't take the maaser off the truma. Well, there is such a case that you do. And that case would be that if you took the maaser before you took the truma, that you go back and you do the truma, which tells you that the maaser was effective, which tells me back that if I do the truma before Bikurim, that the truma was effective, and I still have to go back and do the Bikurim. So Rava says, really, why do you say that the truma was effective there when you took truma out of order? I have a pasuk that says that when I do the same thing to Meiser, I then take truma afterwards. So it's based on a pasuk.
But one is dealing with Meiser.
One is saying, yeah, but it's saying that when it's out of order, in any of those cases, it's not exactly the same one, but you can still go back and do it.
This is Rava giving the answer.
This is Rava giving the answer why his truma out of order was effective. Why was it considered even truma?
And if Rava did not have this pasuk or an answer, then it would say Tuyufta Rava Tuyufta.
Yeah. If Rava didn't have this pasuk, we would say, well, this seems to be a proof that it's effective. It's a proof to Abaya. Again, the way we resolve all of these issues, we keep bringing up sources that don't fit with either Abaya or Rava. The way we resolve it is we say, oh, that's an exception. Over there's a pasuk. Okay. Ula Abaya. According to Abaya, why do I need the pasuk of Mikol Ma'aser Seichem Terimo to tell me that I can take Truma even after I took the Meiser? Why do I need that pasuk? Of course you can do that. According to Abaya, everything that you do wrong always works. I don't need a pasuk to tell me that you go back and you do that. So it says Mibayele Likida Mibayele. It's a dalet. quoting the Gemara and Beya. We need it Kidamale Rav Papa La Abaya. We need it because Rav Papa responded to Abaya something. It's not in our Masechta. It's not quoted at all here. We're supposed to know that. It's a Gemara Masechta Beya. What does it say over there? Yeah. I'll read it from here. Reb Shimon ben Lakish stated that if the first tithe was separated while the grain was still on the stalks. So what happens? When you do the truma, you only do truma after it's already in the granary. And after that, then you can do the tithing. But if you did the tithing while the grain is still in the stalks, you didn't even separate it from the stalks yet. So it's a very early stage. You were never chayiv in truma. And you went ahead and you gave the meiser first. So what's going to happen there? That amount is exempt from truma, even though the amount of truma the priest receives is thereby reduced. Because what's going to happen is he had 100 pieces of grain or 100 measurements of grain. He takes off the meiser before he's chayiv in truma. He's then exempted that meiser from truma. Because before it was chayiv, he already removed it. Now he only has 90 measurements left. So he takes truma off the. Oh, yeah, that's what you mentioned. That it upsets the calculation.
Is there a reason that someone would do this out of order? Is there an advantage in ease of his life or some commercial reason to do this out of order? I'm wondering. Or is it just a mistake someone made?
Right. Good question. What would it gain? I'm not sure. So, what happened was, the pasuk that's used over there, it says that you take meiser min meiser. There is such a thing as meiser min meiser. That means after the Levi gets his meiser, the Levi then gives a tenth of what he received. Let's say there's 100. Okay, the owner has 100 measurements. He gives 10 of them to the Levi. Gives 10 to Meiser. The Levi goes ahead and takes one, and he gives one to the Kayan. It's called Meiser Mina Meiser. We call it Trumas Meiser. In the pasuk, it's called Meiser Mina Meiser. Okay. As opposed to Truma Gedola.
What about Meiser Sheni?
No, well, Meiser Sheni. Let's go like this. The order is like this. First, of course, is the Bikurim, but then you have Truma goes to the Kayan. Meiser Rishon goes to the Levi. Meiser Sheni is your own things that you take to Yerushalayim. But once the Levi gets his Meiser, he takes 1/10 of that and he gives it to the Kayan as well. So what does the Kayan get? He gets Truma from the Yisrael or from the landowner. He gets another sort of Truma, smaller amount, 1/10 of that, from the Levi. Okay? So what happens is, when the pasuk says Meiser Mina Meiser, it says you take Meiser Mina Meiser, but you don't take Truma Gedola from the Meiser. So 1 second, it's a problem. We just said that you don't take Truma Gedola from the Meiser. And so Rav Papa then says to Abaya, what about if the Levi got his Meiser before the Truma, you're not going to take off Truma? So he says, it depends when. If the Levi got his Meiser while it was still in the stalks, then you don't take Truma. But if the Levi got his Meiser after it was already in the silo, which you're already chayav in Truma, then that was a total mistake, and you still have to give to the Kayan the Truma. So you're going to take Truma off the Meiser as well in that case. So we have the pasuk of Mikol Matir Sechem Tarimu Truma. From all your Meisers you do take Truma. That tells me that you even take Truma from the Meiser if the Meiser was given early, but it was after it was in the silo, because then you're already chayav in Truma. Explain this again.
Yeah.
If
use a cup and your cup.
See, these are the stalks. Okay, this is the stalks. If the stalks I'm supposed to take. I'm supposed to wait till it goes into the granary to take truma and meiser. I didn't. I took instead of taking instead of waiting for that, I went ahead and I just took meiser off the stalks. Now when it ends up in the granary, there's not the same amount of that there would have been before. I have to give to the kohen, which I never gave him yet. So I give it to the kohen whatever's left from whatever's left, 2% from whatever's left. But let's say I cut the grain and I removed it from the stalks and I put it into the silo. And then instead of giving the truma, I went ahead and I gave the meiser. I skipped it. I skipped the truma. I have to go back and I have to take truma, I guess, from my own stuff, based on what was, what the meiser was there as well. And that's what Rav Papa tells to Abaya, that there are cases that you have to take meiser you have to take truma from the meiser, from what was given already. Why? Because you did it out of order. Okay, so what we're learning here is that...
Well, what that probably means is you have to act in your measurement, your second measurement, as if 100% was there.
Right.
Not that you take it from there.
Right.
You
You calculate that back in.
Yeah.
Extrapolate.
So, why not? That's a good word.
Do it. You know why?
Extrapolate means no. That's not that word.
It certainly means that based on the information that I have, I can figure out other things. Here, what we're saying is that,
extrapolate backwards.
but I knew what I gave him. I knew what I gave. That I don't have. I just have to. I knew what I gave to the Levi. I just have to use that amount to give now to the Kohen. Okay, so we have a source for Rava that it's mahan, that it works over here, that the truma that the ma'isa that was taken is good, and we have also what Abaya uses that pasuk for to tell me. The Gemara asks, what about if he takes the ma'isa before the truma after it's in the silo? Why is he not exempt? From on this it says mikol ma'aser seichem terimo, that you take ma'aser, you take truma even from the ma'aser, which means that if the ma'aser was taken before the truma, you have to calculate the ma'aser back in when you take the truma. The Gemara says Amar Yisrael Rabbis Esakri. Why did you make this distinction? Okay, the two laws are like this. I have the ma'aser that's taken after it's in the silo, and I have the ma'aser that's taken before it's in the silo, and it's very different. If it's after it was in the silo, then I'm already chayiv in truma. Then I have to go back and take truma. When I take the truma, I have to take it off what was already given, because the ma'aser that was taken was chayiv in truma as well. But if the ma'aser was taken while it was still in the stalks, it's never chayiv in truma. Then when I come to take the truma, the ma'aser that was separated is not chayiv in truma. It got out of the tax somehow before it was taxable. I don't know that example. Somehow you got it out of the income. It wasn't counted in your income, right? Okay. So the Gemara asks, but why do I make that distinction between those two cases? The Gemara explains very simple. Look, once it's in the silo, it's considered grain. And when it says that you take truma from the grain, this is grain. It's already in the silo. It's piled up. But I exclude what's in the stalks. That's not considered grain yet. That's just considered like vegetables or whatever. It's not the grain. And so therefore you're exempt from taking the truma off that. Because it says, what's the pasuk for truma? Reishis de gancha, the first of your grain. So it needs to be grain. Once it's in the silo, it's grain. Okay, next case. But what about if a Kayin Gadol marries a widow? We're discussing the Machlekes Abai and Rava about Kalma de Avid Rachmana, Kalma de Aser Rachmana, Kalma Sadam Rachmana Leisavir. anything that Hashem says not to do, but you go ahead and do it, doesn't work. Abaya holds that it works. Rabbi holds that it doesn't work. Then we have a bunch of examples. And so each one, whenever we have an example, each one says, oh, that's a special pasuk. That's basically what we're doing. So here we have what happens if a Kohen Gadol marries a widow. Torah says, don't marry a widow or a divorcee. Utanan, and it was taught in the Mishnah, that if there's kedushin, if the marriage takes effect, but there's also a sin there. So the child is considered a chalal. The child that goes after the worst, the inferior lineage, which is, in this case, it's the mother.
But he's not a mamzer?
Not a mamzer. He's just
he's
just not a Kohen. A mamzer is only if the marriage would not have even worked, right? If someone marries a married woman, he lives with a married woman, or a relative that he's not allowed to marry, that would be much more serious. Here, the marriage works. What's the problem? What do you mean the marriage works? The Hashem says don't do it. How is the marriage of... What do you mean yesh kedushin? That the kedushin takes effect. You know, he's going to need a divorce. Doesn't fit with Rava. Rava says...
Fits with Abaya.
Fits with Abaya. So Gemara would ask over here, Tiyufta de Rava. That's what it says in the note, probably in Tesvav. No, it doesn't even mention it. But it's a question on Rava. The Gemara says, Shani Hach, over here it's different. I have a pasuk. The pasuk says that you should not profane or make profane his descendants. And this pasuk tells me that the marriage takes effect. Ula Abaya. According to Abaya, why do I need that pasuk? Of course the marriage takes effect. Everything takes effect. Whenever the Torah says don't do it, it's always effective. That's why it's a sin. It says, Neimakro layachal. Should just say... It should say layachal. My layachalal, that extra lamed. You see what we're doing over here, Jimmy, is we're saying that it's coming to tell me that it's not a mamzer. It's coming to tell me that there was kedushin. Layachal tells me that there is kedushin. He's not a mamzer. He's just a chalal. He's just not a kohen. He can't get that aliyah, even though his father's a kohen. So, echad la v'echad la. Okay, what does it mean echad la v'echad la? What it means is that she also becomes forbidden to marry a Kohen after this. Well, she was always forbidden to marry a Kohen. But she not only becomes forbidden to marry a Kohen, is that if she was a Bas Kohen, she enters into the status of a Zoina, of what's called a prostitute, but it's really... someone that's forbidden to marry a Kohen. She couldn't have married a Kohen anyway, but let's say she was an almana. But what's happening here is that she's losing her status of kahuna from her father's house, because she was the daughter of a... And the sin that she did was that she married someone the sin that she did, she married a Kohen even though she was a divorcee or a widow.
Okay,
Then a Kohen Gadol.
That would only apply, though, if she had no children and ended up back in her father's house.
If she had no here, even if she has children,
I'm saying that if she doesn't have children.
If she doesn't have children, she goes back to her father's house. True. Over here, what we're saying is that if she goes back to her father's house, she's not considered a Kohen. Lo yechalel, there's two. She's not considered a Bas Kohen. She can't eat the truma from her father's house. They have to make separate food for her.
Here it says that the thing that's on her is that the mother's disqualified from marrying even a common Kohen. So the one
Is
for
that
him
all it says?
Yeah, it says the one for him, that the offspring is at least a Mechallah.
That's true. Okay,
Yeah,
she's
and for her, the mother's disqualified from marrying even a common Kohen. That's in his touch. I don't know if that's
maybe right. Maybe right. Okay, good. She can't marry a common Kohen. Okay.
which she should have.
But she would have, if she would have been allowed because she's only a widow here. She's not a divorcee. Okay, now the next case is Varei Hektish Baile Mumin Lemizbeach. Hektish Baile Mumin Lemizbeach. If someone sanctifies a Balmum as a sacrifice, Balmum means it has a blemish. It can't be a sacrifice. The Rachman Amar Kol Asher Bay Mum Leisakrivu. The Eberster says in the Torah, anything that has a mum you shall not bring. When it says you shall not bring, it means you shall not consecrate. If it has a mum, you shouldn't even consecrate it. Utanan. But what happens if you did? It was taught in the Mishnah. Hamakdish bali mum legab mizbeach. Let's say someone sanctifies a bal mum. Afal shu belaisa say, even though there's a negative prohibition, masha asa yasi, it becomes sanctified. You can't bring it as a carbon, of course, but it gets a holiness it's a holiness at least for the temple. Tiyufta de Rava. How does it work? According to Rava, there was a prohibition here. It's not supposed to work. Rava holds that if there's a violation, it's not supposed to work. So Amalach Rava says, Shani Hasam, that's different. It doesn't satisfy the vow. The vow, it doesn't satisfy. It doesn't appease Hashem, which means it's not brought as a carbon. But Hamikdash Kadshi, but it still is sanctified. I have a special pasuk that it works. Again, that's how we are answering all of these things, that these are exceptions. Abaya, why do I need that pasuk? Of course it works. Of course it becomes sanctified. Just because it was a violation doesn't mean that it doesn't work. Bais says, if the pasuk didn't say Neidala Yiratza, I would have thought even mitzvah v'kasher. I would have thought that you can even bring it as a sacrifice. You weren't supposed to. You weren't supposed to sanctify it, but now that you sanctified it, maybe it could still be brought as a sacrifice. Kamash Malan comes to teach us that you don't bring it as a sacrifice. What about the opposite? Very makdish tamim and lebedek Bais. You're not supposed to sanctify anything that's eligible to be brought to the altar. You're not supposed to sanctify it, to consecrate it for the temple fund. If it's an animal, it's supposed to be brought as a sacrifice. Other things could go to the temple fund, to the bedek Bais. It says Damar Rachmana because the pasuk says Nidava Tasaise. You give it as a gift. Zeh Kachi bedek Bais. This is referring to Kachi bedek Bais. What we learn from this is Oisai. The word Oisai tells me that it is given to the bedek Bais. But other things, if it's an animal that doesn't have a mum, that's supposed to be brought to the altar, not to the bedek Bais. Utanan, and it was also taught in the Mishnah, Hamakdish Mim in the bedek Bais, if someone takes animals, but on top of and sanctifies them to the temple fund, Afal Pishu Belaisa say, even though he violates this prohibition, Masha Asi Asi, it's still considered consecrated. It doesn't say consecrated as what? Is it a sacrifice or is it consecrated for the temple fund? He was supposed to give it he was supposed to consecrate it for a sacrifice. Instead, he consecrates it for the fund. So it says, it's consecrated. But as what? But whatever the case is, it's still a question on Rava. Rava says it shouldn't be consecrated. It's a prohibition. Tiyufta de Rava. This is a kasha on Rava. Amalach Rava would respond, Mehechadis Rabbi, or Mimakim Shinis Rabbi, Bali Mum, and the Gab Nizbech, Nishabit Min Lebedek Bais. Exactly what the pasuk that you used before, that you said, L'nei de la Yiratza, that tells me that that it works, it becomes holy. I learned from the animal that has a mum that I wasn't supposed to sanctify, but nevertheless it becomes sanctified. I learned from that the animal that I was supposed to sanctify for the mizbeach, also, but I didn't. I sanctified it for bedek Bais, also becomes sanctified. I learned one from the other.
It says that animals that are fit for korbanos can be consecrated only as korbanos.
That's and what happens?
In other words, you can't do it for bedek Bais. If the animal doesn't
and let's say he did.
I'm saying just if the animal doesn't have a mum and it's capable to be used as a korban, it can only be used as a korban.
Right. But let's say here's the question. Let's say he consecrates it for bedek Bais, not for a korban. So the Gemara says it becomes consecrated. What the Gemara doesn't explain though, which type of consecrated. That's why does he mention which type?
No.
So what he did is consecrated, as we learned in the Bais. Even though he has transgressed prohibition, what he did is done. Doesn't say what done as what. Here they say they redeem it, and then they bring another sacrifice. All right. Next case. Regezel. What about if someone steals? Rahman Amalei Sigzel. Hashem says, don't steal. Utanan. And it was taught in the Mishnah. Hagoizel eitz and vasakalim. If someone steals wood, and he's a wood, what's it called? Someone that works, a carpenter, a woodworker. He turns them into utensils. So he cuts it up and he does all that stuff. Tzemer, or wool, vasam begadim. And he weaves it and he turns it into, spins it, he turns it into clothing. So when it comes to paying back what he stole, so what does he pay back? Does he pay back what it was originally worth, what he stole? Or does he pay back what he has now? So it depends. If stealing accomplishes something, and he stole it and now it's his, so then he pays back the original price, because he doesn't have to give his house, it's his own things. He has to pay back whatever the value was that he stole. So it says, Mashalem Kishas Gzeli, pays back the original price, what it was when he stole it. That means that when he took it, he accomplished something and he's acquired it. It becomes his. This is a tiyuf to the Rava. According to Rava, it should never be his. Stealing shouldn't work.
If a person stole the 100, and after it's stolen, it's now value at 200, does he have to pay back to the person he stole from 100 or 200?
So,
Split the difference.
So,
Yeah, but that's
yeah, King Solomon.
Because the guy who was stolen from can say, you stole it when it was 100. I would have sold it at 200, but I didn't own it anymore. Now what am I supposed to do? You're going to give me back originally it was only worth 100?
Right.
Wasn't there a story like this with the egg? He stole an egg, and then the egg was a chicken had many eggs.
Is this
so
a Gemara? It's a Gemara, I think.
I never knew if it was Gemara or a joke, because it was a great question.
No, it was I believe the story I heard was an eight says that Shlomo gave someone who had a case going before David HaMelech, where it was, I'm not sure if it was an egg or something or a pea that was supposed to be planted or whatever. It was an egg. It was an egg.
Something
it was an egg that was
become-
hard boiled.
That was the final. That's why I thought it was a joke.
It was an egg that was hard boiled.
So here we're seeing that it's effective. He stole it and it becomes his. So Amalach Rava, we'll get to the answer in a minute. Amalach Rava says, Shani Hassam, that's different. Because Namakra Asher Gazal says that you return, return what you stole. Kamasha Gazal, it needs to be what you stole. This is not what you stole. You stole wool. There's a special pasuk that tells you that you return exactly what it was that you stole. Ula Abaya, according to Abaya, why do I need this? I know that it becomes yours right away. Abaya says any sin that you do is immediately effective. Hayashagazal, so this, that it says Hashagazal mibayale, we need it for something else. It says Al Gazela Shalai Maisef Chaimish, Al Gazela Shalav Veinu Maisef Chaimish. There's a rule that if someone takes a shvua, a false oath, regarding a claim against him, he has to pay an extra fifth when he is caught lying. So, but that's only if the oath is on his own stealing. But if he takes an oath on something that his father stole, that I guess he inherited, or whatever, he doesn't have to add the fifth. So Abaya says that pasuk teaches me something else. Don't worry about it. I know when it comes to paying back, how much you have to pay back, is it the original price in that? Abaya says, of course, it's the original price, because after you steal it, it becomes yours. So what do I need the pasuk Asher Gazal for? That I need to tell me that you don't pay a fifth on something that your father stole. For a mashkin, what about when it says taking a collateral? You're not supposed to take a collateral after the loan is already given. Before the loan is given, it's different. You say, look, how am I gonna know you're gonna pay me back? You give a collateral. But once the loan is given, and then there's like some distrust or something, and you go to the person, you're not supposed to take now collaterals from the borrower. So it says, Leisavi el Beisai. The Rachmana Amar, Leisavi el Beis, don't come to his house, Lavid Avaita, to take the collateral. How do they translate Avaita?
Pledge.
The pledge. Utanan, and it's taught, Machzer Sakar Balayla, you have to return the pillow or the blanket in the evening. Vesamachresha Bayayim, you have to return the plow by day. How does he explain how is this a kasha on Rava? It says the creditor may keep possession of seized collateral when it is not being used, which is apparently a conclusive refutation of the opinion of Rava. When it's not being used, he's allowed to hold it, even though he wasn't supposed to take a collateral. So why is he allowed to hold it? He shouldn't be able to hold it at all. Kashan Rava. Amalach Rava Shani Hasim Damakra Hashiv Tashiv. Rava says that over there it's different. It says that you have to return it. And this means that what do you return? You return the things that you're supposed to return by day, and what you can hold by night. How does he explain that? The repetition of the verb teaches that the creditor must return the collateral many times. But what it really means is that he can then hold.
Even though you got the collateral against the original.
Right. But you can still hold it. You still hold it. Which means that this is an exception.
As well.
Okay, why? But why do you have to return it? Yes, because for a buyer, why should you have to return it? You took it, keep it.
No, you always have to return it.
Right. No, a buyer would say the pasuk says they have to return it by day. Hashiv Tashiv, you have to return it by day.
You're not supposed to take collateral, and it says you constantly return it every time the guy needs it. How can you go back and take it the second day?
Because according to Abai, Masha Asa Asui.
But you did it the first time you Masha Asa, you did it. You gave it back.